one team that is going to be looked at under a little bit of a microscope this year, I think, is the Nebraska Cornhuskers with their new head coach and Matt Rhule, who was let go by the Carolina Panthers. And he is back into the college game. The last time we saw him in college was when he had the nice resurgence of Baylor University, was able to get that program back on track a little bit. And so they hosted their spring game this weekend, and they are moving on from the Scott Frost era. They no longer have Scott Frost there losing games by 2 points or 3 points. It just did not work out there. He was held there too long. So now Matt Rhule's here. They have moved on, and people believe that Nebraska this year are going to make some noise. So if you want, again, it's spring ball. There's no need to overreact to anything, but it's nice to watch and see what we have a glimpse of with this Nebraska team. We're used to seeing them being a pistol, shotgun, RPO system type with buck sweep, very up-tempo offense. Are they going to turn into that as the season goes along? Possibly. But a couple of takeaways from this is you weren't going to have Casey Thompson. He was recovering from throwing surgery that he had, and all looks of it is that he is going to be the starter for this Nebraska Cornhuskers team. One thing you wanted to see outside of the quarterback starts is they didn't have a whole ton of transfers come in. They have a couple that are going to be, according to their depth chart, and you saw them in the spring game as their backups. But one thing you wanted to see is how are they going to react to the new coaching staff? There was a decent crowd there for the spring game, which was nice to see. They haven't had much to, celebrate about. But this Nebraska Cornhuskers team, I have been right about them for the past couple seasons because Scott Frost is a good coach, won a lot of games. He did his thing at UCF. You lost some close games in Nebraska, but early on in your career, early on when you're coaching at a place, if you're losing games close and it's constantly happening year by year, and you're losing recruits, I guess not as much stock put into that. But I kept telling people predicted them to win 7, 8, 9 games last year. And I said, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If you're losing games by 3 points and you're not making the adjustments, and you saw the turmoil last year where he was calling the plays, but then said somebody else was calling the plays. You lose a coaching staff. You're firing this person. You're doing this. The writing was on the wall. But now they have a clean slate here with this Nebraska team. So people are very high on Matt Rhule. People think he's going to come in and do well because he's turned around Temple. He turned around Baylor. He did a couple good things while he was with the Carolina Panthers until he didn't, and it was done. But the NFL is a completely different beast. So in this spring game, what were we going to be expecting? What could be going on for the summer and going into the season with this team? You weren't going to see Casey Thompson playing quarterback because he's recovering from throwing surgery and this injury that he had. So you were going to see quarterback Jeff Sims play and Hendrik Hatterberg. And they looked pretty good. I thought Jeff Sims looked pretty good. One thing that really stuck out to me outside of the whole game was their defense went to a 3-5, similar to what you saw with TCU. And the speed of Nebraska's defensive line and their linebackers really impressed me, how they flew to the football. And that looked like their strength. Offensively, they had a couple decent plays. They did a couple big-time runs, but they go under center a lot, which you weren't seeing them do. So they weren't shotgun, but they were also going under center. They were running stretch. It looked like that NFL pro style that, Matt Rhule has been doing with the Carolina Panthers. So that would be a hint that we're going to see for this team. Now, could they run this and be successful in the Big Ten? They can, because you've seen Michigan do it, but Michigan started to get away, and now they're running the football, but they're staying in more of your shotgun look. Iowa is a straight I formation. They'll still do those things. But to go to that type of offense, come into your first year, you have a couple of transfers come in. Is he doing this because Nebraska wants to be a heavy run football team like they were in the past? Can this hold up against their schedule of who they're going to play if they want to decide to do this? Because they do have some playmakers. You are going to have Casey Thompson, but Casey Thompson, that's another reason why they go under center is because he wasn't playing, which is very possible. But to change this offense up, to try to have a grasp on it early on, is something that they're going to have to really get on the fly, because Nebraska fans are not going to be very patient with this team due to the fact of what they've had to endure with Scott Frost. Um, so let's talk about Nebraska's um, schedule. They have a favorable schedule ish at the beginning, but they are not going to be any type of cakewalks when you look at their schedule. One is really going to be tested right off the bat with Minnesota, but the big interesting one is when they have to go to Colorado and the new resurgence of Colorado, which we've talked about their spring game. Northern Illinois was a good team last year. That's not going to be something they're going to have a cakewalk. Louisiana Tech's good. Then it really gets into the meat grinder of the Big Ten. And so they're going to have to prove right away that there's some change. Now, scheme wise, I think they're going to keep things relatively simple. That 3-3, that 3-5, that 3-3 stack defense that they're going to be playing, is that going to work in the Big Ten? You don't really see a whole ton of that. You see more of a 3-4, 4-2-5 type of defense, because in the Big Ten, they've moved towards the pass game RPO type of things. But you're seeing more in the Big Ten. They're getting more tight ends involved, which is going to be a problem for that 3-3 stack, that 3-5 defense that we're going to be seeing them play. But I think they're going to this pro style. We're going to run stretch. We're going to run a little bit of power, and we're going to do play action and get the ball out quick, because they want to keep things simple. They want to control the clock because of not having the full recruiting class of Coach Rhule. But a big takeaway from the spring game is it looked like they were playing harder. Now it's a spring game, but it just looked like they were having more fun without, the previous years of, the disappointment that they had. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they fare in their schedule coming up. But one thing to take away is they have some decent hard running backs. They have a big offensive line. I think on offense they could possibly struggle if Casey Thompson doesn't come in and throw the way he needs to throw. I think that could be the issue right there. But their defense looks really fast. That defense it could cause some problems as long as their D line holds up. I think that will be a big strength for this Nebraska team, taking that away from watching them in their spring game this year as they head into the summer.